This is Bitnar Talks, the engineer takes on construction. Episode 37. Hi, I'm Piotr Bitnar. Each day I help my clients plan and design building projects through Bitnar Limited, a consulting chartered structural engineer's practice. My biggest passion and the cornerstone on which I've built my business is finding clever solutions for construction projects. I am a chartered structural engineer and a budding software developer, so you can rest assured that I will strive to talk about the best practices and the use of new technologies in the industry. And if you're embarking on a construction project or are involved in planning, designing and building the world around us, you'll find this podcast useful. Approved Document 7, Materials and Workmanship. Hi guys, and welcome to Bitnar Talks, your favorite podcast on all matters of architecture, engineering and construction. It is Thursday the 28th of November 2024, and I'm here back with you with the 37th episode and information on Approved Document 7, Materials and Workmanship. I must admit, I'm not the greatest fan of the period heading towards the 24th of December. With every passing day, the nights get longer and the days get shorter, so try to make some of that occasional sunshine and put your headphones on with me and go for a walk, pal. That bit of a sun going through your retina will make a massive difference for the rest of your day. However, if you listen at a different time of the day or at a different season, or in a different season, I'm glad you are spending this time with me. Today, I will be finalizing a long series of episodes on the approved documents, so I hope you'll find it more refreshing hearing about other things too. But before we will get there, let's recap the last episode. In the last episode, I talked about the approved document T, toilet accommodation, where in section 0, that covers introduction and scope, we were told that the document establishes minimum standards for unisex and single-sex ambulant toilets, excluding wheelchair-accessible toilets and baby-changing facilities, which are addressed in Approved Document M Volume 2. It applies to new and altered buildings, ensuring compliance with current standards. Guidance prioritizes single-sex toilets with shared hand-washing facilities, offering fully enclosed unisex toilets as an alternative where space is limited. Section 1 covers application guidance and performance of these toilets, where the regulations applies to non-dwelling buildings except schools, custodial accommodations and workplaces, with reference to Workplace Regulation 1992, Act and BS 6465 for toilet provision calculations. Performance standards cover 4 toilet types, which are spread in between of A, B, C and D. All of the standards emphasize privacy, safety and compliance with Approved Document M for wheelchair accessibility. Layouts focus on user dignity and privacy with specific spatial requirements. Section 2 gives common design provisions for applicable to across all toilets, which must ensure privacy, safety and accessibility, including privacy screens for urinals. Dual height hooks should be provided within the cubicles, outward opening doors, ideally with emergency mechanisms if otherwise. Additional features include neurodiverse friendly design, clear signage, appropriate lighting, and separate baby changing facilities unless absolutely unavoidable. Section 3 goes on to the first type A of the toilet, fully enclosed ambulatory ambulant universal toilet. Wow, that's that morning recording that it just twists my tongue. These toilets require a minimum size of 985 millimeters by 2 meters and 125 millimeters, with 750 millimeters wide outward opening doors, ideally. Features include grab rails, a disposable bin, 2 hooks, and a 600 by 800 activity space in front of the water closet pan, ensuring functionality and privacy. Section 4 covers Type B toilets, fully enclosed universal toilets, which are slightly smaller at 1050 mm by 1685 mm. These toilets include a 650 mm wide door, wash basin, hand drying facilities, and 2 hooks. They offer similar activity space as clearance to Type A and can be integrated into single-sex facilities. Section 5 covers Type C toilets, which are ambulant single-sex toilet cubicles. This non-self-contained cubicle measured 920 by 1465 mm with, again, 750 mm wide clear door opening and communal hand washing facilities. Features within the cubicle include grab rails, 2 hooks, a disposable bin, and a defined activity space for comfort and accessibility. Section 6 covers Type D single-sex toilet cubicle at 910 mm by 1740 mm. This cubicle includes 650 mm wide doors and communal wash basins and drying facilities. Similar to Type C, they provide 2 hooks, bin, the shelf, with optional urinal in male toilets per BS 6465. Appendix D of that document outlines dimensions and fitting requirements to aid in design compliant facilities. In this episode, I will move to the approved document 7, Materials and Workmanship. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this. Alright guys, starting with the text of the legislation first. Materials and Workmanship. Regulation 7. Paragraph 1. Building work shall be carried out A. with adequate and proper materials, which I. are appropriate for the circumstances in which they are used, I. are adequately mixed or prepared, and I. are applied, used or fixed so as adequately to perform the functions for which they are designed, and B. in a workmanlike manner. Paragraph 1a. Building work shall be carried out so that relevant metal composite material does not become part of an external wall or specified attachment of any building. Paragraph 2. Subject to a paragraph 3, building work shall be carried out so that materials which become part of an external wall or specified attachment of a relevant building are of European classification A2, S1, D0 or A1, classified in accordance with the reaction to fire classification. Paragraph 3. Paragraph 2 does not apply to A. Cavity trays when used between 2 leaves of masonry, B. Any part of a roof other than any part of a roof which falls within paragraph 4 IV of Regulation 2, paragraph 6, if that part is connected to an external wall, C. Door frames and doors, D. Electrical installations, DA. Fiber optic cables, E. Insulation and waterproofing materials used below ground level or up to 300 mm above that level, F. Intumescent and fire stopping materials where the inclusion of the materials is necessary to meet the requirement of Part B of Schedule 1, G. Membranes, H. Seals, gaskets, fixings, sealants and back rods, HA. Components associated with a solar shading device, excluding components whose primary function is to provide shade or deflect sunlight, such as the awning, curtain or slats. I. Thermal break materials where the inclusion of the material is necessary to meet the thermal bridging requirement of Part L of Schedule 1. J. Window frames and glass, or K, materials which form the top horizontal floor layer of a balcony, which are of European classification A1 floor or A2 floor S1, classified in accordance with the reaction to fire classification, provided that the entire layer has an imperforate substrate under it. Point 4. In this regulation, A relevant building means a building with a story not including rooftop plant areas or any story consisting exclusively of plant rooms at least 18 meters above ground level, and which I contains one or more dwellings, double I contains an institution, or triple I contains a room for residential purposes, and B, above ground level, in relation to a story means above ground level when measured from the lowest ground level adjoining the outside of a building to the top of the floor surface of the story. So this is it, simple, really simple stuff, as it was back in the day, plus an extra bit due to the changes made by the Building Safety Act. Interestingly, in this document there are no provisions for the control over the materials past the completion of work in the building regulations. However, such obligation can be made under Section 20 of the Building Act 1984, even if the specification conforms to the building regulations. It should also be noted that the products used in construction that are covered by European product standards or conform to a European technical assessment should normally have CE marking. In the gist, Secretary of State is satisfied when the materials are suitable in nature and quality to the proposed use and condition, and where relevant materials have to be adequately mixed, prepared, used, fixed and applied to perform the intended function. It all does not need to be any better than to meet the requirements of Schedule 1 as laid down in Regulation 8, though, but all buildings works fall under this regulation. So starting with Section 1, which deals with materials. As just mentioned, we need to meet the building regs functional or performance requirements, and we will usually do so by following approved documents and standards mentioned within these. But as long as we are using materials fit for purpose, we are fine in this regard, and we do have a freedom to select these as appropriate. The document recognizes several ways of establishing if the material is suitable for use. Things like assuring they are CE marked under the Construction Products Regulation, which basically means if the product is on the list for the use of the EU market covered by the harmonized standard, it should have the marking. However, if the product does not fall under the consideration but is used in the construction, it can undergo a technical assessment to be CE marked also. CE marking should reference product standard and the level of classes of performance being declared against that standard. The product should also be accompanied by a declaration of performance containing further technical details. It should be verified that the information contained within the technical documentation is sufficient and appropriate for the product to be used in the building, but the Secretary of State is of the opinion that otherwise such declaration can be relied upon. There are also CE markings under the regulations, and such marking shows suitability should show suitability for the particular use. Meeting British standards is another way to show compliance, and as is still the case, most of the British standards are based on the European standards. However, if they are not harmonized standards, they will not have CE marking associated with meeting its requirements. ISO and other countries' standards could also be applicable here and may well be suitable to show compliance with the regulation, but that will need to be demonstrated by translation of the standard and justification. The product can also be certified by an independent body or certification scheme. The scheme or testing facility will need to in turn be approved by UCAS in the UK and EA in Europe. It becomes a bit tricky here, as the certification may be only valid partially due to the actual certification of the testing institution, so you need to check the accreditation of the testing place as well as the material used. All that is good, but we can also rely on past experience with the material behavior in the existing building. Local authorities have the power to take samples of materials to establish suitability, and that happens under Regulation 46. But should the work pertain to the notified work, the inspector can do the same under Regulation 8 if the building approved inspectors, etc. regulations. Short-lived material may be used provided that they are readily accessible for inspection, maintenance and replacement, and will not lead to harm of people if they deteriorate. Think of a living wall as an example. That said, the local authority can impose conditions on the use of such materials. Materials susceptible to change in their properties can also be used provided it can be ascertained that they will remain suitable in the changed state. The document also goes on to remind us about tall buildings with residential units and the restriction of combustible materials used in the external envelope of the building. Section 2 covers workmanship, and guess what? It should be good and proper for purpose. Simple. Typically, if the material has a CE marking, the workmanship may be specified within the assessment and product standard. After all, if we do not use it for the assumption made for the way it has been tested, what is the point, right? There is also a plethora of standards and industry-specific guides, and in Britain, the BS 8000 series of standards is a good first point of contact. I will list them all at the end so you have a quick reference if what you do is covered by the standard. In general, if you are a main contractor, all of them falls underneath your remit, and you should get yourself well acquainted with them. Using independent certification schemes may help in assuring an appropriate level of workmanship, as is the case with the self-certification schemes of users of proprietary materials, let's say roofing, weatherproofing. We can refer to management systems, or the lack thereof, to further ascertain individual or company attention to the workmanship and past experience of the level of workmanship on existing buildings. Tests can be used to show adequacy of the workmanship, and you will see these actually required by the regulation. Things like sound insulation testing, Regulation 41, the airflow rate of mechanical ventilation, Regulation 42, pressure testing, Regulation 43. Generally speaking, building control bodies can require testing under Regulation 45 of building regulations, and Regulation 8 of Approved Inspectors Regulations, and Section 33 of the Building Act 1984. We are also left to act voluntarily to test and assure compliance with the workmanship requirement. As promised, let us see what is in the BS 8000 suite of documents. All of them deal with workmanship on building sites. Please mind that any of them may be withdrawn at any point, but I would say anyhow, it will be a good point to start at. Part 0 covers Introduction and General Principles. Part 1 Excavation and Filling. Part 2 in 2 parts covers Mixing and Transportation and Site Work with in situ or precast concrete. Part 3 deals with Masonry. Part 4 Waterproofing. Part 5 Carpentry, Joinery and General Fixing. Part 6 Slating and Tiling of Roofs and Claddings. Part 7 Glazing. Part 8 Plasterboard Partitions and Dry Lining. Part 9 Cementitious Leveling Screeds and Wearing Screeds. Part 10 is now withdrawn, Covered Plastering and Rendering. Part 11 Internal and External Wall and Floor Tiling. Part 12 Decorative Wall Covering and Painting. Part 13 Above Ground Drainage and Sanitary Appliances. Part 14 Below Ground Drainage. Part 15 Hot and Cold Water Services. And Part 16 sealing joints in buildings using sealants. So this is it, folks, the approved document 7, materials and workmanship. Let's sum it up section by section. The updated document reflects the simplicity of the earlier version while incorporating provisions introduced by the Building Safety Act. Although building regulations lack explicit controls over materials after project completion, obligations can arise under Section 20 of the Building Act 1984. Materials used must meet European product standards, CE marking, or align with a European technical assessment. The Secretary of State is happy if materials are appropriate and applied correctly to meet Schedule 1 requirements under Regulation 8, ensuring all works comply with these foundational regulations. Section 1 covers materials, and building regulation emphasizes that using materials fit for purpose is crucial, allowing flexibility in material selection as long as performance and functional requirements are met. Compliance can be demonstrated through CE marking, British standards, other standards, certification, and proving past performance. Authorities may inspect materials under Regulation 46 or impose conditions on using short-lived or property-changing materials, ensuring safety and accessibility for maintenance and replacement. Restrictions also apply to combustible materials in tall residential buildings. Section 2 deals with workmanship, which obviously must be good and proper, standards to ensure safety and functionality. Guidance include adhering to product-specific CE marking standards or the BS 8000 series, which covers site workmanship across various building tasks. Leveraging independent certification schemes or proprietary self-certification for assurance, evaluating management system or past project performance to ensure quality, and conducting tests such as sound insulation, ventilation, pressure is required by regulation or voluntarily for additional compliance verification. I have also covered the overview of BS 8000 series, which references site workmanship across disciplines, starting with Part 0 that covers general principles, then going through Part 1 to 16 that covers excavation, concrete, masonry, waterproofing, carpentry, roofing, glazing, partitioning, screed, styling, painting, drainage, water services, and sealants. Each part provides specific standards for respective areas, ensuring comprehensive coverage for on-site construction practices. In the next episode, I will move to approved document Z, whole life carbon. Don't worry, it's not there yet, but the industry is getting ready for it. So I thought I'll end up the series on all the approved documents with the likely another approved document that is coming to us soon. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that the considerations of the approved document 7, material and workmanship, are a bit clearer for you now. No doubt I will cover every part of the BS 8000 series in the podcast coming next year, so stay tuned if you want to know more. If you have any questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn or send me an email. I'm more than happy to help you out. In Bitna, we deal with planning, designing and managing of your projects, and we are always glad to facilitate a free initial consultation to steer you in the right direction. Visit www.bitna.co.uk and reach out to us. Whether your question is if we can help you with your project or what should I do, we will be able to give you a piece of non-obligatory advice. At Bitna, we help our clients design and execute their dream homes or investments. If your building is falling apart, we can also help investigate the reasons behind it and to provide you with an appropriate strategy, design and specifications for the repair. Thank you again for listening. Please voice up your opinions. I'm waiting for you on LinkedIn and I want to hear from you. See you next week. Bitna designs the world around you. Toodaloo.